Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast with your hosts, Mike Walters and Eddie Jones. This is the number one home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
All right, welcome back to our show. I'm your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Jones. And as we expected, Eddie, this summer, there's a lot of action going on, with the Ducks out. Boudreau gone now as well from Anaheim. There's plenty of stuff to talk about going around this the league and also with the Ducks.
Yeah, and really the coaching carousel continues in Calgary firing Bob Hartley. He came off the Jack Adams the season before and, really surprised everybody by taking Calgary to the playoffs. Obviously, they ended up losing to the Ducks. But this year they had a disappointing season and probably the season we all expected them to have the year before that. And I think really, though, the firing of Bruce Boudreau led to the firing of Hartley. I think Calgary really thinks they're a contender to get Bruce. And, I mean, even if they don't get him, I think they're okay bringing in another coach anyway. But, it continues. And even without the Ducks hiring a coach, we still have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the issues have been surrounding Getzlaf and Perry lately, which we'll cover. We'll also talk about Boudreau and where he could land, and several replacements have been mentioned as well for the Ducks. So we'll get to that, and we'll talk about the league as well. He's still got 4 playoff contests going. A little bit of controversy too in that San Jose Nashville Game 4 that they had there. So we'll get to that as well. But going with the Ducks first. The biggest issues after Boudreau was let go, of course, was Getzlaf and Perry. And a lot of rumors out there, a lot of concern about what's going to happen as far as the captains, if they're going to get traded, and all kinds of things like that just going on. So we'll go with Getzlaf first. The biggest thing really for him, Eddie, is the articles about him selling his houses. He has one house he sold in Tustin, and then he sold another house in Corona del Mar. And basically what happened is that spurred a lot of, questions and concern about what was going on with Getzlaf and his role with the team. And I received a lot of questions about what was going to happen with him. So I did what I always do. I hit the phones and called some people and messaged some people and figured out what I could find. And, to our relief, there's nothing earth-shattering that's happening with Getzlaf right now. No kind of trade or anything like that. It's most likely that he's going to move to Coto de Casa, which, if you're familiar with the area in Southern California, it's a private community where Teemu Selanne lives. And I've had several people confirm that that's where he's looking to move. I don't know if he actually has bought a house there yet or not, but that's the gist of what's going on. So at least we can put that part of it to rest, Eddie. At least Getzlaf's not going anywhere for now. He's got a no movement clause as well. So I don't suspect anything should happen. Hopefully this whole next season.
And this happens a lot too. I mean, we remember last year when the Ducks went out against Chicago, they talked about moving Getzlaf, changing the captain to Kessler, trading Perry. Like this happens every year. The Ducks go out disappointingly in the playoffs, and I mean, I don't expect anything to happen. There's no way he gets traded. There's no way Perry gets traded. You're not going to get what you want for them unless you're rebuilding, and I'm sure that the Ducks aren't going to be rebuilding. You don't trade these guys, especially not right now. And with regards to him being the captain next year, I think you echo kind of Murray's statements here. Is they think he still is the guy, but it's really up to the new coach who comes in. I think the new coach probably gives him a chance too. I think you got to give him a chance. He's the captain coming. You're coming into a new team. He's already the captain there. I think you give him at least another chance. And if it doesn't work out, you either strip him of the seating and have 3 assistant captains, or you give the captaincy to somebody else if you think they've shown it over the course of the next season coming up. So, but I think it all depends on the guy coming in to coach the Ducks.
Yeah, that was one of the fan questions we'll kind of take early in our show here that Alexander asked about. There's the Fourth Period, if you haven't heard about, is another website that's out there that talked about Getzlaf and giving him another chance for next season and what we thought about it. And, I'm fine with that. I really don't think that the movement of getting rid of Boudreau translates necessarily into Getzlaf not being the captain anymore. I just don't see that. I really think, Eddie, that when Murray decided to get rid of Boudreau, I think it was really a shot in the gut to Getzlaf, Perry, and Kessler, all three of the captain and assistant captains, as a wake up call. That's the way I see it, at least for now. I mean, obviously things can change whenever the next coach comes in, and we can talk about all those options in a little bit. But that's kind of where I see it right now, is a huge message sent by Murray to the team that you basically need to wake the what up.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just a brief part of the article. It talks about, Getzlaf should get another chance under a new coach, and I mean it's a good article. You can go check it out on the fourth period. But I agree. I think it is a wake up call, and Murray said he has to be harder on the players, and obviously that starts with Getzlaf and Perry, and even Kessler to some extent too, as those are the leaders in the dressing room right now. Um, and it's a tough one. I mean, I think we all agree Getzlaf it should be the captain. I mean, that's obviously some people out there and they don't, and that's fine. That's your opinion as well. But I think he should get at least one more chance, and get a new guy behind the bench, and that's what the article says too. Is he should get another chance under a new coach to prove that he is the leader. But there's a possibility if it doesn't work out that Kessler could take over. We've talked about Perry before. We've talked Cogliano. I mean, there's other options in the dressing room if the coach doesn't feel Getzlaf's the guy.
Yeah, and that spurned some more conversation again about Perry being traded and being captain and all this. All these discussions have really gone on in the last 2 weeks or so now. With the IIHF tournament coming up, Perry played for Team Canada, and then he was named the captain. So then people had concern there, as some people had said, well, Perry doesn't deserve to be the captain there. He shouldn't be the alternate captain on the Ducks. Other people said, well, if Perry's the captain there, then he should be the captain next season. So, I mean, there's just a wide range of discussion going on. Hopefully the trade stuff has, died down and people aren't talking about that as much, but it seems like it's shifting more towards who should be captain and who should be assistant. And it's going to be interesting next season. Like we said, the team also sent out an email from all three of them, talking about how this season was a disappointment and how they want to rectify the season next year. So, I'm not trying to read anything into that email. I know I posted it. A lot of you saw it. They sent it out, I believe, to the season ticket holders. But from that email, Eddie, what I kind of gleaned from it, and I don't want to assume, but you see the email, and it's from Getzlaf, Perry, and Kessler, captain, the two alternates, talking about next year and doing things better. To me, it seems like they're keeping them in the same spot, and they want to go on next year and do things better under whoever's the next coach. I could be wrong, and like I said, they could change with the new coach, but I think that was not just a PR move, but something to reassure the fans that the core is going to be there at the top and that they're willing to obviously do something better to get over this next year.
Yeah, and I think they have to put that there like that now because I mean Murray said that he's okay. He's okay coming back with those guys as leaders next year, and I mean it could change like we said already. It's up to the coach, but I think that's the way I don't know if I'd say that's the way they would like it to be because I think they're okay with change, but I think that's what it is right now. And if you're gonna put out a message, you gotta have him as captain and them as assistant captains. I think that's how it's gotta go. But quickly going back to the World Championships things that you talked about. I mean, a lot of people talking about how Perry doesn't deserve the captaincy and why is Getzlaf not on the team? Why is Perry there? And, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, you have to actually know how the World Championships plays out to really understand why obviously Perry was named captain and why some guys aren't on the team. I mean, it wasn't that Getzlaf wasn't asked to be on the team. I'm sure he was asked to be on the team, but you look at he's not the only notable name missing off this team. I mean, there's no Patrice Bergeron on there, and Brad Marchand's there, and not a lot of people are talking about that. The World Championships is by invitation. If you want to go, you can go. And I'm sure if they asked Perry, they asked Getzlaf, if they asked Marchand, they asked Bergeron. I mean, they asked a lot of players. They asked a lot of players to go. And if you look at this team, especially for Canada and even for the U.S. as well, but they're a young team. And there's not a lot of guys born in the 1980s on this team who have the experience that Perry does. I mean, I believe it's him and Ryan O'Reilly who are the only two guys. And Perry's 3 years older than O'Reilly. He's been around. He's won a cup. He's won Olympic gold medals. I mean, he deserves to be captain on this team. I mean, there's not any other guys you're going to name captain on this team. So I think, people got to calm down a little bit. I mean, there's a reason Perry was named captain of this team. there's obviously a reason Getzlaf wasn't decided not to go. I mean, it could have to deal with his move. He's dealing. He either just didn't want to go. I mean, some guys just don't want to go. I mean, you just played a full season. You want to take a break, relax. I mean, he's moving to a new house, spend time with the family. I mean, it's not a huge surprise that he didn't decide to go.
Yeah, and along those lines too of Getzlaf, I don't know if we mentioned this before on the podcast or even if I mentioned it on the blog or whatnot, but they're also expecting their fourth child as well. So, there's a lot of personal stuff that Getzlaf has going on right now, and I'm not saying that, other players don't have stuff. We learned about Kessler, obviously, with his grandfather passing away. We saw that in Game 5 when the Ducks beat Nashville and he scored that goal and pointed up to the sky. So he was going through that, and we remember he was gone a couple games earlier in the season, which it's not confirmed, but it's pretty sure it was in relation to that. So we see these things happen and things go on. And now that the season's over, I understand why Getzlaf didn't go to the IHF, and he's doing what he's got to do. I mean, all these guys have lives too. And that's kind of why I put out the article about him moving. I know some people, I gave him a heart attack, and I really didn't mean to do that. I was just trying to answer everybody's questions because I was honestly a day or two late. There was several articles out there about Getzlaf moving. So I just tried to provide an update, and help people out and let them know that there's nothing out there about him being traded right now. He's just moving. It's actually a smart business decision because he could have made a certain amount of money on the first house, and now he's getting it back on the second one. So I see what he's doing. He's got some personal things going on, and that's his life. That's what he's got to do. And obviously, he's the captain. He's going to get the most attention on a team, of course, just like Perry's up there as well. Kessler's up there as well. And these guys all have their lives and things that are going on. But it makes sense. And in the future, too, just keep in mind, if one of these guys gets traded or something happens, we will write an article about it. And you'll see articles with the word trade in it. I didn't mean for that title to cause heartache to people, and I sincerely apologize for that. It was just meant to give an update because I'd been bombarded with so many questions and so many rumors about it, and I'm sorry, I can't sit there on the computer and respond to 30 questions about Getzlaf every day. I mean, I have my personal life too. Eddie has his life too. So that was the point behind that article, and like you said, Eddie, I stand behind him not being there and Perry being named captain. I think all of this is just a non-issue. Like you said, this tournament isn't that big of a deal. It's done during the playoffs in the NHL. During the time of the NHL playoffs. So there's a reason why people don't go. Either they're burnt out on the season, they want to spend time with their family, or they're still playing, which we'll talk about those later in the show.
Yeah, and listen, Getzlaf isn't the only guy not there. I mean, Kessler's not at the. If you were talking about Ducks players, Kessler's not on the USA team, Rakell's not on the Swedish team. I mean, a lot of these guys have bumps and bruises after the playoffs. Like you said, personal issues. This happens every single year where guys don't decide to go. And like you said, it's because of the poor timing. And this is why it's the World Cup of Hockey is coming back in September, and you're gonna see Getzlaf's already on that team. We'll most likely see Perry on that team. That's the tournament plus the Olympics where you're going to see the top players play. But the World Championships has always been like this. It's usually where the players from teams who don't make the playoffs go to play, and that's the majority of this team, barring like Perry, Marchand, and a couple other guys on this Team Canada team at least. So it happens every year, and you shouldn't get too worked up about it.
Exactly. And basically, we'll just move on from all of that. We'll go more into the coaching situation now because obviously that's the next big topic. It's been Getzlaf, Perry, and who's going to be the coach for Anaheim. So this issue, I mean, first we'll look at Boudreau. As soon as he got relieved, basically his phone's been going off the hook. The LA Times reported that he's lost some of his voice from talking to so many people. We do know that he's been talking to Minnesota and he's been talking to Ottawa. And then Calgary jumps into the scene, Eddie. They relieve Hartley. Of course, they say it's not because of Boudreau, but then they turn around and they make an offer to Boudreau. So that they jumped into the scene because of that. I mean, I don't know why they're trying to hide it. But regardless of that, those seem to be the top three teams. If I had to place bets on where he would go, I would think he would go with Ottawa. And the reason being is he has family that lives there. He has a house out in that area as well. So that's where I think he would go. I don't know anything specific, obviously what's going to happen. But That's kind of what I'm leaning towards in that situation, Eddie. Though, I mean, obviously the Wild are trying to make a push, and Calgary is really trying to make a stronger push.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, Ottawa, I think, is the best destination for him. He has family up there. It's a good young team. I think he'll really help any team he goes to, but I don't think Minnesota's pushing too hard. That Torchetti took them to the playoffs. I think they're okay coming back with him if they can't get Bruce Boudreau, and I think the only reason they haven't hired Torchetti yet is because Boudreau is an option for them, and I think they're conducting interviews and they're obviously going to make a decision. Calgary. You've got Brian Burke, who has ties with pretty much everyone in the league, so he obviously has a good relationship with Bruce Boudreau, and there's a chance that he could go there. And the there's also, I think, you'd have to wait and see with the Blues as well. As I think if they don't make it past this round, I think Ken Hitchcock is has a chance that he might be fired there, and then there's an open position there as well. So I think those are four teams that are definitely in the hunt for a coach, especially. I mean, the Blues, barring their success in the playoffs this year, and obviously if they make it to the next round or to the Stanley Cup Finals, I don't think that's an issue. But I think the realistic landing spot for Bruce right now would be the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, I agree, and we're just going to have to keep our finger on that and see, what happens. And obviously, we'll put it out there whenever some announcement is made. Which then brings us to the bigger question, of course, is who is the Ducks coach going to be? And there's all kinds of news going on about this. There was the report that we put out there that we heard that Travis Green was one of the options. Obviously, those who remember, he played for the Ducks, the Mighty Ducks, actually, back in the late 90s. And then he actually came to the Ducks the year that they won the Stanley Cup. But unfortunately, he was picked up on waivers and went to Toronto before the end of that season. So he was only part of the team, and in the beginning he only played a handful of games. But he's been one of the names that have been mentioned. We've mentioned a lot of other names out there. Obviously Hartley's now entered the race. We don't know how much he has, but because of the Calgary situation, his name is being thrown around. Another one, a big one, Eddie, is Daryl Sutter. You heard that Lombardi made an offer to him. He hasn't signed it. And we also heard at the Gulls and the Reign first game that they played that Murray and Lombardi were seen talking. What they were talking about, we don't necessarily know, but there's a strong possibility that Sutter could be an option for Anaheim too, Eddie.
Yeah, and I think that would be the most surprising one. I mean, I don't think a lot of us thought that would be an option, but it's kind of similar to the Steven Stamkos situation, as these are important guys to their clubs. Obviously, different situations as player and coach, but I mean, these are guys who you would expect them to have a contract signed at the beginning of the year. They don't right now, and there's a possibility that they might leave their teams. And if Sutter ends up leaving the Kings, I think he might even jump in front of Bruce Boudreau to be the front runner for most teams that they want to have a guy behind their bench, and he's won two Stanley Cups. I think he has to be at the top of that list, and he has to be at the top of the Ducks list if there's a chance to sign him. And he really, with the limited amount of options out there, I think he has to be the top option for them right now if there's a chance.
Yeah, and you wrote an article on this too, talking about all the options for the Ducks, in which you listed 14 players or 14 coaches, excuse me, on here, and which was a good job. I mean, you went into depth on a lot of different options on here. Most of these they're not verified, but a lot of these have either been mentioned by other reporters or in articles or things that we've heard or seen. And we did a poll question on there, and it's interesting to see that the top five vote getters on here, number one is Daryl Sutter. Number two is Paul McLean. Number three, Randy Carlyle, another surprise. Four is Hartley, and then five, Travis Green, as I mentioned before, too, as well. So kind of an interesting mix there. To me, I mean, if we went by this poll question, it would really come down, and we talked about this before, Eddie, is if Murray goes inside or outside the organization. It seems like if he goes inside, according to the fans, here's you guys that voted, and the poll's still up there. You can still go vote, please, at will. It looks like McLean would be the inside choice, and Sutter would be the outside choice.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the two most realistic options. I think those are the two you would expect. Maybe not McLean at number two, but I think a lot of people want to see what he can do. Obviously, he coached the Ducks power play to number one this year, and Was a great pair with Yanni, who coached them to the #1 penalty kill. I would expect he would keep him around, but it's up to the head coach to bring in his own assistants if he wants to. But yeah, if you're going to hire from within, you have to go with him. I think he's had more coaching experience than Yanni. He coached 4 years in Ottawa. He's been around as an assistant for a while too, so I think he would be a good option for the Ducks if they wanted to hire from within. I honestly don't know if that's the best option for them. I think there's a lot of good options outside the organization right now. Obviously, with Dale Sutter, if he's available, being the #1, and we can see that with the results from our poll. The surprising thing, like you said, is a lot of people wanting Randy Carlyle as a coach to come back. I don't know if that's the best option. I honestly think he has a better shot of landing in Calgary. I mean, you look at his last two head coaching jobs. Brian Burke has been part of that team, and obviously now Brian Burke is part of Calgary Flames. So I think if he goes anywhere and Brian Burke wants to bring him back, Calgary is probably a good option for him. I don't know if a lot of fans would welcome him back to Anaheim, even though he did win the Stanley Cup. I don't think. I don't think. I mean, it's tough to say. I mean, you look at some of these guys, and a lot of them coach like an early 2000s, late 90s style of hockey, which I don't know if it translates to this day and age of the speed in younger players and the smaller guys. I don't know. Hartley coaches that in a way. So does Carlisle. A lot of the older guys they coach that way. So I don't know if it translates, but there's still good options. And obviously the last one here, Travis Green, is kind of the odd one out. He has no NHL coaching experience. He's won a WHL championship with Portland a couple seasons ago. He coached the Utica Comets to the Calder Cup final where they lost to the Ontario Reign. I believe it was the Manchester Monarchs last year. So that's still the Kings AHL affiliate. And he's having a good season this year with Utica, so there's a chance that he could be signed. But those are definitely five suitable options.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting if the Ducks don't go with McLean and Sutter. I know you mentioned Travis Green and you were kind of high on him. I don't know. I wrote my article on that one, gave my analysis how I kind of go 50-50 on Travis Green if they're not going to go with McLean, Sutter, or say even bring back Carlisle for some reason. I mean, my issue is that he has zero NHL experience, but at the same time, like you said, he's done well at the WHL and the AHL, and he seems to be more of a players type coach. I mean, it's a tough one. I don't know if they would go with him or not. I mean, it seems like, according to Elliot Freeman of Sportsnet, that the Ducks are going to talk to him. That was the report that was out earlier in the week. So he's another one in the mix, but I don't know, Eddie. I know you're more for him. I would give him a pass. It's a little bit too much of a risk for me.
That's a fair opinion. It's obviously a risk for a team that its window is slowly closing shut to bring in a guy who has no NHL experience, and you might want to bring in a guy who's gonna kick the players in the pants like Hartley or Carlisle, or have a guy who's won 2 cups in Sutter as well. And I think you got to look too is if you're in favor of a guy like Travis Green and bringing in a new guy, you got to look at some of the success at new coaches that have come in and they've had no NHL experience. I mean, you look at John Cooper in Tampa Bay. He came in after coaching Tampa Bay's AHL affiliate for a couple seasons, came up to the Lightning, and now look at the success they're having now. Jeff Blashill came out this year, took the Red Wings. I mean, they did just scrape in, but he did bring a depleted Red Wings team into the playoffs and coach pretty well, taking over from Mike Babcock. So it does happen. It doesn't always happen when you get a guy from a different AHL organization, as the Utica Comets are the AHL affiliate for the Vancouver Canucks, and coming over to a different team and having the same type of success. It would definitely be uncharted waters for the Ducks, but it could pay off in the long run, but like you said, the no NHL experience is definitely a risk.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Some other names have popped up too that aren't on your list. Obviously, people ask about that haven't coached, an NHL level, and obviously Scott Niedermayer comes up, Teemu Selanne comes up as well. So those are some other names. I mean, Niedermayer obviously does the stuff with the players and as far as player development, along with Todd Marchant. So they both work on that angle. So I mean, that's another option, but I really don't know if either one of them wants to do it. I mean, Niedermayer's a big family guy, and I don't know if he wants to, commit to that kind of a role as a head coach of an NHL team. So I don't know if he would be in the mix. And Teemu, I don't really know. I mean, you see all his funny tweets and the things that he's, doing on social media lately. But I don't think either one of those would be in the mix, Eddie.
No, and I think, obviously our sixth choice on here with 15 votes is other, and I'm sure a majority of those are votes for Timo. But I just don't see it happening. I mean, Timo does a lot already. I don't know if he wants to risk tarnishing any kind of relationship or memory or legend that he has with the Ducks organization by becoming a coach, and if he ultimately falls on flat on his face, that kind of tarnishes the history he has with the Ducks in a way, and I just don't think it's a great option for the Ducks. I mean, it would be cute, it'd be nice to have Timu as the head coach, and but he's never coached, I don't think, anywhere, really, in any kind of situation. So I think he would be even more of a risk than bringing in Travis Green. So it's a nice story. It'd be a nice thing to see, but I don't realistically see him even being on Bob Murray's list.
Correct. I don't think so either. And we know that Murray finished up all his player interviews this past week. The LA Times reported that as well. So I'm figuring this weekend he's going to be busy on the phone talking to, maybe not all the people you listed in your article, but definitely, you've listed, pretty much, the names that are out there and that are popular. And for me, I think a lot of it depends on what Sutter does in LA. If he does not sign that offer from Lombardi, I mean, I really think it's a possibility that he comes to the Ducks, and I know some of the fans are like, he's the Kings coach and f that guy and all that kind of stuff. I know, I get it, but and he does have a strange personality, obviously the way he answers his questions and holds his press conferences and whatnot. But I mean, the guy's won 2 Stanley Cups and they knocked us out of the playoffs too. So I'm just putting that out there. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad option to hire your rival team's coach that, has gone to war against Chicago and the Ducks in the playoffs in the regular season the last, couple seasons here. So that wouldn't be a bad option to me. If he does stay with the Kings or he goes to some other team, then I like Paul McLean. So I pretty much agree with what the fans have voted for. I mean, they went with those two as their top choices, and those are my 2 top choices, Eddie.
Yeah, and if Sutter doesn't sign in LA, I think Anaheim has to be at the top of his list. But you also got to remember too is his family and even him himself, they have a lot of family up in the Alberta region, and they have a lot of history with the Calgary Flames as well. So I think that's definitely an option for him too. They aren't a competitive team yet, but they're a young team. They're getting better. They're still in the Pacific Division too. I think that is also a realistic option for him, and I think those, out of the teams who need a coach, those are probably the only 2 places I could really see him going if he decides to leave LA.
I agree. You're right. Calgary's another strong possibility for him as well. And it's going to be interesting, like we said. This summer is not going to be a dull moment. I wish the Ducks were still playing in the playoffs right now, like most of you, and battling it out. And it's just been unfortunate that we're in this position. But we're definitely going to probably have podcasts every week, Eddie, because all the stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, we still have more stuff on here to talk about, and we're not even close to being done. And still no coach has been signed. We still have the off season, the draft, possible trades, free agency. I mean, there's a ton of stuff still on the way.
Yeah, and with that, we'll turn to some of the fan questions too, because there's plenty of stuff going on around the league. There's obviously people have other questions about what's happening. And one of my favorite players is coming back for another year, Jaromir Jagr, and Katrina asks about that and my thoughts on that. I'm ecstatic. I mean, he's one of the first guys. Him and Lemieux were the ones that I followed. Obviously Lemieux in the late '80s, and then Jagr came in 1990 with Pittsburgh. So I'm ecstatic. I honestly I wish the Ducks would get him for 1 year. I wouldn't mind that, but I mean, I know that that's far fetched with all the other stuff we've got going on, and all the RFAs and UFAs and all these other situations. It's just a dream on my end. But regardless, I'm happy to see him play another year. I mean, this guy, you can't say enough about him, Eddie. He's just an ageless wonder. That's all I can really say about him.
Yeah, it's amazing that not only is he playing at this age, we've seen other players play late into their career, Chris Chelios, even Timo Solani as well, but that he's still playing at the level that we would expect from a Yager maybe 10 years ago. He put up some amazing numbers for Florida this year. Was a key player for them. He helped them get to the playoffs. Obviously, it didn't work out for them. They ended up losing against the Islanders in the first round. But I think he sees that this team is young and that they still have a chance, and he can really help this team. And it's great to see him come back. And if you score 50, 60 points at his age, you deserve to come back for another season if you think you can go. And you can't really forget too, this is a big, big boost to the Florida Panthers that they don't have to lose a guy who's going to give you 50, 60 points a season. So it's definitely cool to see him come back another year.
Yeah, the question in Florida for next year, if the team stays the way it is and performs similar next year, I really would be interested to see how far they go in the playoffs, Eddie. They obviously got knocked out in the first round, and I was kind of rooting for them. I wanted to see them, go farther in the playoffs. So I think, next season, obviously we'll have our preview, which we're partially right sometimes on it, but we'll talk about it probably more in like August, September when we do our preview of each division and conference and who we think will end up where. But I definitely would keep my eye on Florida because they can make a run next year.
Yeah, and with the team they already have, Huberdeau's going to be a year older, Barkov's going to be a year older. They're both coming off good seasons. Bukestad as well, and they have a couple young guys coming up too. Lawson Krause is poised to start for them next year, and we'll have to see how well he does. But he's their top prospect right now too. Obviously Luongo will be back, and it's a young team, and the way they played this year, they won the division. They played really well, and I think they'll learn from this situation that they were in this year, and take a step forward next year.
Speaking of young players and GMs and whatnot, what about the news in Arizona, Eddie? They bring in the GM John Chayka, 26 years of age. What do you think about this? This is a move that a lot of people are pretty critical about. They don't think he's going to have a lot of success because he's a young guy. He's more on the analytical side. He's not part of the maybe the good old boy network or whatnot. However you want to phrase that. But what do you think? Because they're trying to bring back Shane Doan as well too, and he's in the mix. It's definitely an interesting situation out in Arizona.
It's about time. I'm a little bit surprised that Arizona is the first team to actually do it, but good for them. I think the analytics movement is definitely the new way forward in hockey. Like you said, the old boys club has kind of been in charge of the NHL front offices for as long as you can go back in hockey history. Up until now, you've had to be a former player or had significant experience in the NHL to be a GM. And I think it's definitely a good thing. He obviously came in and learned a lot from Maloney. He was assistant GM until he was named general manager a couple of days ago. But I think it's a good step forward. He is very young. He's a lot younger than I thought. The first analytics guy to become a GM would be. But it's great. A lot of people are critical of it, and I can honestly see why. He's younger than probably half the team. And he's going to be in charge of all their contracts and dealing with all the situations with the team. But the Coyotes wouldn't put him in charge if they didn't think he could do that. He's been there as assistant GM already. It's not like they hired him out of nowhere, so they know what he can do, and I think they believe he's going to be a good GM for them, and I think it's a great step forward. And this will just start a trend. You can already see in Toronto with Kyle Dubas as assistant GM to Lou Lamoriello, and there's no way Lou is going to be there for 10 years. So I think we'll see. Dubas will probably take over from Lou in a couple seasons from now, and that will be maybe the second one. And he's only in his 20s too, so it's just a trend that's going to continue going forward, and I'm glad to see it finally happen in the NHL.
Yeah, I was a little surprised too when the move happened. When I saw, I had heard about it, and then when I saw the news and they actually said they were doing it, I was like, wow. It was a pretty gutsy move. As we talked about, analytics is an important part of hockey. Obviously, it's not the stat when you talk about puck possession or whatnot, but it's definitely something you can't ignore. It's something you have to take into account with the way that these teams play hockey now, especially when you're looking at the 5-on-5 scenarios. The most in those puck possession stats is important. Usually, teams that do better at puck possession make the playoffs and do better. and go farther. It's not necessarily always the case or always translates into it, but it's an important factor. So it's going to be interesting. I think the other part of this that's kind of humorous to me, like you said, he's 26 and half the team's, older than him. So it's kind of interesting when you're going to be talking to a GM because you're used to someone, late 30s or, 40s, 50s, whatever. And now you have a guy that, I don't know, is more like one of the guys, I guess, in a sense of his age. But as you said, he came from within the organization, already had a role there. So it's a little bit different. It's not like they just said, hey, there's this analytical guy out in the street. Let's, pull him in, which is, what kind of some people are kind of alluding to. So I think it will be a good fit. I really hope it works out for him. I don't like to see people fail. And if this is a new trend and it works out in Arizona and it's something that goes around for the rest of the league, then by all means, I'm for it.
Yeah, and I think that's how you have to do it, though. I mean, I don't discredit years of NHL experience by any means. I think that's that's huge when you're going to be a general
Right.
manager and you're going to deal with a
Right.
team. And I think that's why these guys are assistant GMs before they're GMs. They learn a lot of things from the guys who've been there and done that. And I think obviously Chaika learned a lot from Don Maloney when Don Maloney was there as general manager. And I think right now Kyle Dubas is learning a lot from Lou Lamoriello. And I think it's a good starting point for a lot of these guys. I mean, they have to learn from some of the old ways before they can implement the new ways. I mean, Chaika's going to come in and he's going to, introduce, the analytics and everything to the team. Not that they haven't been doing it before, but then there's just sports science and everything, just all the new innovative ways that he's going to try and run a team. I'm interested to see how it's going to work out and how it's going to pan out in Arizona. And obviously, I wish him the best. And it's a big thing for hockey because if this doesn't work out, that's a big blow to the analytics community and the possibilities of seeing guys like him get more jobs in NHL front offices in the future.
Yeah, and it seems like the Pacific Division, there's a lot going on right now. I mean, like we said, we have the head coaching change for our, Calgary, the possible change in Los Angeles. You have this GM change in Arizona. Obviously, the Ducks trying to get their coaching situation straightened out. So the Pacific Division, I mean, obviously, there's a lot that's going to get decided in the next couple of months and leading all the way up once we get past the draft, and we'll have coverage on that as well and the preseason and all that. But this division, I would think, not to take away from the other ones, but this one's probably been the most newsworthy one recently, Eddie, in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the amazing thing is it's the Edmonton Oilers are the only ones who are outside the drama for once. So I think I mean if they had won the draft lottery, I mean it would have been perfect because then every team would have been involved. But no, I mean it's kind of crazy right now to see the Pacific Division every team is making changes pretty much. Like you said, the Ducks fired their coach, Calgary fired their coach. The Arizona Coyotes extended Tippett's contract. They hired the 26-year-old GM. It's just it's a trend that's continuing. Obviously, like you said, Sutter too. So it's creating good news for us. I mean, technically, all the Pacific Division news could involve the Ducks. The Sharks are still going far in the playoffs, battling Nashville right now. So I mean, maybe if Edmonton ends up trading their pick away to us, like I mentioned, maybe that will then they can create some drama and join the club. But no, we'll have to wait and see at the draft.
Well, that's a good question too. As far as the Ducks, kind of going back, talking about Anaheim here and the RFAs and the UFAs, we've kind of covered this at length. But I mean, it's basically the times now to start, talking about this stuff more seriously. Nate asked a question about Sammy Vatanen. Going back to the trade deadline, there were rumors back then that maybe he would get traded to Tampa Bay for Druin. You also mentioned trading up in the draft and kind of what our thoughts are on that. And, I know a lot of people, if you're listening and you're a Ducks fan, you're going, okay, the Ducks are done. I'm not watching hockey anymore. I'm over it, whatever. And I get that. I totally understand, especially with what's gone on the last 4 postseasons. But for me, I'm the opposite. I've been watching every series as much as I can, except when there's 2 on at the same time because I don't have any, I don't have a bunch of TVs or whatever, or picture-in-picture or whatever to watch all these games. But I've been pretty much watching these other 4 series. And I'd have to say, and I think you agree, Eddie, that Druin's really been proving himself. I mean, I can't remember which game it was that he was in where he just got rocked. It was a clean check, but he just got knocked out. And he came back in, and he's been making an impact with Stamkos out in Tampa Bay. And if you look at the results, I mean, they're up 3-1. They just won the last game. Now they can close it out. If the Ducks were to trade Vatanen for Druin, I don't know if it would be straight up or some picks involved, but I wouldn't be too upset with that, especially if the Ducks kept Raquel and Lindholm.
Yeah, and really, ever since he came back and decided to come back and play with the Tampa Bay Lightning, he's done great. I mean, he came back, and I believe in his first game back in the regular season, he scored 2 goals or something like that. But I mean, he's got 8 points right now in 9 games played. They're finally using him in a top six role, and he's playing really well. I believe at times he's played with Kucherov, he's played with Tyler Johnson. He's kind of moving all over the lineup, and I mean, it's good for him, and really, he's going to be a good player in this league. I think he still has all the skills to be a top six forward in this league and possibly be a franchise player still. I mean, he was drafted high enough to be tabbed at. He's definitely still their top prospect, and I think it's great for him to be playing well and playing a big part of this push to the Stanley Cup Finals that the Tampa Bay Lightning are making right now without their captain, which is significant for them. And with Steven Stamkos still not signed, if they think with this team they can be successful, and if they end up going on and even winning the Stanley Cup without him, I mean, that opens the door for him to leave, I think. And really, Jonathan Drouin might even stay. I mean, I don't think anybody thought this would be a possibility, but if they win without Stamkos, you gotta keep him, don't you? Like you kind of have to keep a guy like Jonathan Drouin if you're losing Steven Stamkos. And I mean, I'd be all for a Vatanen for Drouin trade. I think the Ducks really need to stock up on some top forward prospects. That's why I mentioned the possibility of them trading up to 4 for Edmonton's pick or 6 for Calgary's pick, using either Gibson or Anderson or Vatanen as trade pieces. And I think that those options, either those or the trade for Drouin in the offseason, are things that the Ducks definitely have to look at because, I mean, the window's closing. Getzlaf, Perry, Kessler are over 30 now, and you got to look at stocking up replacements for them that can take over.
Yeah, that's an extremely good point. And I do want to go back to, we did talk about Druin when all that drama happened. Remember, Eddie? And we both thought, hey, if he gets another chance and he could run with it, that'd be great. And, I'm glad to see that. Like we said, when people get involved in drama and things like that, I'm always for them turning it around and making the better of the situation. And I'm glad. I mean, whether it happens and he stays there and helps Tampa Bay go farther in the playoffs, or he, goes to another team, or we try to get him, whatever. I am glad though to see that things are starting to work out a little bit better for him.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for such a high profile guy and what went wrong and where he was picked and being with a team that was supposed to go far and all the struggles they had, there was just a bunch of drama going on with the team. I mean, you're already dealing with Stamkos, you're dealing with them struggling early in the season. Now this comes about, and I mean, for him to actually come back and play was the best thing for him. Obviously, we said that all along, and everybody was saying that he have to play. You can't just sit and sulk and not play. I mean, he finally came back, played for Syracuse. They got called up, played, and now he's been playing great for Tampa Bay. And I think it's good for him. And it really ultimately, if he stays with the team, that's a realistic option right now. And I don't think anybody thought it would be.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to keep watching that game, and we'll talk about some of the other series in a moment. But before we get to that, let's talk about still some of the RFAs and UFAs for the Ducks. I really think for Vatanen's situation, separate of this Druin idea that Nathan had, asked us about, the RFAs, it's really going to come down, in my mind, we talked about this before, to Lindholm and Raquel, and also Anderson and Gibson. They're going to have to figure out, I believe, for Murray, this is probably the big 3 players that he's going to have to figure out in the RFA, bracket that's left over. Obviously, Lindholm wants to come back. Raquel wants to come back. That they're best buds, so we're hoping that they stay. But then also Anderson's situation's up in there. I mean, he did really well in the playoffs. You can't fault him really for any of those game 6 or game 7 losses. The Ducks, they didn't get it done. Obviously, not to rehash all that, but Anderson didn't have a poor game either. So, and there's been word too that Gibson could be traded or Anderson. So I think that's something that Murray's going to, obviously get in the coach, as we talked about this weekend. He's probably going to be beating the phones up. He probably already is, actually. But I think those are probably the priority situations they got to look at before they even get to the UFAs, which there's a whole lot we can talk about on that too, Eddie.
Yeah, you definitely have to. I mean, you do have more time with the RFAs because you control their rights, and I think that they might use that. We saw them use that in the offseason last year as well, where they used the time that they had to re-sign guys like Silverberg, and so I think they might use the time that they have again. I'm sure we'll see Lindholm and Raquel back. But like you said, the issue comes down then to Vatanen and if you want him on the team, if you can afford him, or if you want to use the money elsewhere. And I mean, right now you have two very valuable trade pieces that you could use to restock on prospects or pick up some guys who can help you now. And I think it's an option the Ducks have to explore. And I think Vatanen is a piece if you do sign Lindholm, which we would expect. Theodore should start come up next year, and I think Montour will play a similar role to what Theodore played this year, where he'll play 30 games with the Ducks. And I think that gives you the ability to trade a guy like Vatanen. I mean, Jakob Larsson was just signed as well, and I think he'll play a role with the Ducks next year too. And it gives you a lot of flexibility. And if you can move up, I mean, it's a fantasy situation, but it still has a possibility to it in trading up to number four with the Edmonton Oilers, or maybe trading, like we said, Anderson or even Gibson is now that's an option to the Calgary Flames, who are desperately in need of a goalie, and moving up to six and drafting a forward. I mean, there's some great prospects up there. Obviously, you miss out on Matthews, Laine, and Puljujarvi in 1, 2, 3, but there's Kachuk who plays for London. There's Philip Luc Dubois. There's a lot of good prospects up in the top 10 that the Ducks could use to stock up on some forwards for the future, and I think it's an option that Murray will have to explore.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the other issue is you have all these UFAs. I mean, if they're not going to be able to keep all these UFAs. There's just no way. I mean, obviously the RFAs are the most important right now, especially with the players given Vatanen, Raquel, Lindholm, Anderson. I mean, they've got to look at those guys, figure it out, what they're going to do. They have Perry as well. That's an RFA, but I don't know that they'll bring him back with his injury issues and whatnot. I think they probably don't try to go after him. But if you look at the UFAs, I mean, some of these guys are definitely guys that you'd want back. Perron, McGinn, Horkoff, Stewart, maybe Santorelli. I mean, they're guys that have been in there and did help out this team throughout the season. So, like you said, you're going to have to either move some of these players to get prospects or draft picks, and then maybe try to get some of these RFAs and UFAs, because the issue obviously with the RFAs is going to come down, and it always, I mean, this is just all sports anyways. It comes down to money, but in hockey we've seen this, especially for the Ducks. It really comes down to term, Eddie, because the term was issue with Francois Beauchemin and Matt Bolesky. Those were some of the issues why those didn't work out. So I just hope that stuff does not happen with Vatanen, Lindholm, and Raquel, Anderson. If something doesn't work out and they end up trading them or whatnot, I get it, but I really hope that they keep them and that the term isn't the issue. Though you and I have talked about this, Murray has hinted at he doesn't want to be doing long-term contracts.
Yeah, and that's because you have a core of three players who are locked up for a long time at considerably high amount of your salary cap, and Getzlaf and Perry are locked down for a long time, and so is Kessler. And I think you gotta stay away from 5, 6 year deals right now, so you can turn it over and have a new roster ready for when those guys are done and when their contracts are up. And I think it's a smart move from Bob Murray right now. And if you trade a guy like Anderson or Vatanen, like we talked about, it frees up some money to sign maybe Perron and McGinn, and I think those are probably the two UFAs that they'd most likely want to re-sign. Obviously, Stewart had a good season with the Ducks as well, and he's a possibility. But like you said, it comes down to money, and you won't be able to re-sign all these guys. So some are gonna have to go, and even Murray said it himself. This team's gonna look a lot different next year, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and like again, the same theme. It's gonna be an interesting summer. We're gonna be covering a lot of stuff. If we look around the league, we already kind of talked about Tampa Bay and what they're doing and what's going on, but there's three other series going on as well. And there's one that's got a lot of former Ducks players on their team, Pittsburgh. And wow, I mean, this Pittsburgh team, some of you know it's another team that I like to follow. They've really been giving it to Washington, Eddie, in terms of shutting down Washington's offense. I've been really impressed. I mean, I really didn't expect Pittsburgh to take this 3-1 lead. I mean, obviously they're playing later today as we're recording. So if you're hearing it now, it's before the game, but maybe they will have won. I don't know. But I mean, the way that they're going, they've just been playing well. Hagelin's been doing well. Bonino's been doing well. Obviously, Kunitz is in there in the mix as well. There's been a lot of hard hits in this game. Guys have been suspended, on each team. It's been an interesting series, but Pittsburgh, I mean, whether or not you love them or you hate them, you have to give them some serious credit in this, the first 4 games thus far.
Yeah, and this is a different Pittsburgh team from the team we saw them win the cup with, and really it's amazing that they're doing this to a Washington Capitals team who scored 120 points in the regular season. And rarely do you see a young goalie light the world on fire. I mean, we've seen Gibson do it a couple times this season, but what Murray's doing for them right now with Marc-Andre Fleury out is amazing. I mean, he is playing out of his mind for them, and he's just a kid. I mean, the future of U.S. goaltending right now is with Murray and Gibson, and I think it's pretty safe right now with those two guys in the pipeline for the future. And really, like you said, the defense for them too. They won last game with no Letang. Trevor Daley played the majority of the minutes, and you had a young guys like Dumoulin and Mata, and a lot of guys playing big roles there. You've also got the forwards too, and Connor Sheary's playing a big role for them. Kuhnhackl. It's a different Pittsburgh team, and obviously it's still driven by Letang, Crosby, and Malkin, but the couple former Ducks and Bonino and Hagelin and Lovejoy are making key contributions. Kessel's obviously a big part of that team too, and they're just. I mean, I knew they'd go far, but to take it to the Capitals like they have, and if they beat them in 5, I mean, they're realistic. I mean, even right now already, they're a realistic cup contender.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, looking at Letang playing in these games and the minutes that he's logged, I mean, it's just been insane. I mean, he had 34 minutes on April 28th, and then on the 30th, he had 35. I mean, it's like, holy crap. I mean, and then he had, on May 2nd, he had 27 minutes. So, I mean, he's just been out there. I mean, it's just amazing the way he's been working it. And Washington's trying to change up their lines and get better offense going. And the fact that I'm even saying that right now is just incredible because, everybody thinks, or at least thought that Washington was going to just steamroll all the way to the Stanley Cup final. I mean, some people thought that about the Ducks too, and we won't go there because we've already been there and back 100 times. But Washington I mean, they're in an elimination game now in the 5th game, Eddie. I mean, the way Pittsburgh has played, the way they've relied on the defense, I just astonished that I'm even saying it. And like you said, Murray has been outstanding. That guy has impressed me coming in for Fleury, and he's just been really solid. He's been cool and collected, kind of has the same demeanor to me as Anderson, and he's really got the job done for him. I mean, these games have been close games. Don't get me wrong. Pittsburgh, they're not just sitting there blowing out Washington. These games have been, decided in overtime or one goal and here and there. But I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh moves on and then they face either Tampa Bay or the Islanders. Looks more like Tampa Bay at the moment.
Yeah, well, listen, like Washington's got themselves in a difficult situation again in the playoffs, and right now, I saw a stat earlier that teams who go up 3-1 have about a 90% win rate. There's a 90% chance Pittsburgh's going to win this series for a good reason. I mean, Washington has to win 3 elimination games in a row. Not that they can't do it. If any team can do it right now, I think the Capitals are definitely a team who could do it. But I mean, realistically, we would expect to see Pittsburgh moving on at some point to the Eastern Conference Final, and most likely playing the other team who's up 3-1 in the Tampa Bay Lightning. And they're just unstoppable right now. They bowled over the Rangers, which I mean a lot of people expected, but they've done it again right now to the Caps, and I really don't see the Lightning stopping them either. I mean, you face Lundqvist, Holtby, and possibly Ben Bishop, and you've beat 2 teams most. If they beat Washington, they beat both goalies in 5 games. Then they got to play Bishop, and really, I don't think they're afraid of anybody right now.
Yeah, and I honestly, I'd be afraid to play Pittsburgh. I mean, the way that they're doing. It's a different story in the Western Conference. You look at what's going on over there. Both of those series are tied 2-2. As of the time we're recording now, Dallas and St. Louis haven't played Game 5 yet, but they're going to get to that one. And that series has really gone back and forth. Just like Tampa Bay not having Stamkos, Dallas doesn't have Tyler Seguin. And, they're putting up a good fight with the Blues. I mean, the Blues did take it to them in Game 3, but Dallas came back and won Game 4. So I really don't know how the series is going to pan out, Eddie. I've been watching these games as well, and they've been hard fought. A lot of scrums after the whistles in these games too. I thought after Game 3 that St. Louis would maybe take over and win Game 4, but now that it's 2-2, I'm really not sure who's going to win the series. It's been very entertaining.
Yeah, and really the flaws that everybody has mentioned about the Dallas Stars have shown in their goaltending with Kari Lehtinen and Niemi. They're still platooning in that. They're still splitting time playing, game switching here, one playing one game, one playing the other game. And I mean, if they go all the way, people were saying you can't win a cup with splitting time between two goalies. I still believe that's true. I don't think Dallas will get out of this series unless they get one guy to get hot and play well for the rest of the playoffs, because at times both of them have been horrible in Niemi and Lettinen. So I think St. Louis just has to keep fighting here, and I think they'll make it through eventually. I mean, the Stars have a ton of firepower, and that's why they're still even in this series, even without Seguin. I mean, Ben has been unbelievable for them. He's leading the playoffs in points right now. So I mean, he's been the real reason that they're even this far right now. So they've got to get somebody going in net, because St. Louis is about to run away with this series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And today's a big game. I think if St. Louis wins today's game and goes up 3-2, then I would go back and say that they're the ones that are going to take it. But we'll see. Pivotal Game 5 there between those two, and then we also will have another Game 5 coming up here with Nashville and San Jose. In a series that's gone back and forth. This one has been a little bit different. San Jose won the first two home games. Then Nashville won the last two home games, with the last one going to triple overtime. And this last game wasn't without drama. In the overtime, it looked like San Jose had scored the game-winning goal. The refs had called goalie interference. They said, right off the bat, they said it was goalie interference. They reviewed it, still upheld it. Then Nashville came back and scored and won in overtime, tying up the series. And this one, same thing, kind of like Dallas and St. Louis. At first, I thought San Jose was going to run away with it. They went up 2-0, and now it's a best of three again, Eddie. And this one, I still think San Jose pulls it out, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if Nashville is able to do it.
Well, I mean, San Jose finally figured out how to win at home, and with the way that with the record they had on the road throughout the season, even through the playoffs against LA, you would thought, well, this is over pretty much right now. I mean, they'll at least win one of these games in Nashville, and they somehow end up dropping both. They have to go back to San Jose in Game 5 and try and win on home ice, which I mean they struggled with up until this series. So I like you said, I still think they pull it out. I still think they're the better team. But Nashville's no joke, and we saw that obviously in the first series, and Nashville might take this to another Game 7 and squeak out of it. And the West is a little bit complicated. I mean, I think any one of those four teams could make the final. Obviously, Nashville being a little bit of a long shot. I still think, in my opinion, St. Louis are the favorites to go all the way, but anybody could make it out of the West right now. I think it's that tight, and the teams are that close in quality.
Yeah, I agree. I just, whether or not you hate San Jose because you're a Ducks fan, or you're one of those that's, the California, I root for them, whatever. I'm indifferent, as far as the series, Nashville and San Jose. This one, I don't really, personal preference, I don't really care who wins. I'm kind of going more for St. Louis in the whole West right now. But I just did not like the way that game ended in Game 4. I really thought San Jose got screwed, for lack of a better term. I know that the play he ran into the goalie and they called goalie interference, and Pavelski had the goal taken away. But if you look at that play, he gets pushed as he's trying to drop the puck and shoot it in. And I know you had more of a further explanation, which makes a little bit more sense, but doesn't really clear up, the whole thing being controversial. But I just thought it was unfortunate because he gets pushed. There's no way he has time. He's trying to set the puck down, shoot. He can't get out of Rene's way. And it's just unfortunate they took away the goal, Eddie. But I know you had a little bit more on that, which makes a little bit more sense. But it's still an unfortunate play for San Jose.
Yeah, it's definitely unfortunate, and I think because the play doesn't happen that often, and because it's kind of an odd rule, that it was unfortunate to see it get called. But there's no question about it. He originally gets pushed into Rene, and you see the puck on the play is rolling into the net. And I think the issue comes in here is he touches it one more time when he's pretty much in Rene's lap. He touches it again to put it into the net. I think that is, from my opinion and from what I've heard, that is where the call is made for goaltender interference. Because instead of him watching the puck going in and trying to get up off Rene, he's still on Rene and he bats it into the net. And I think that's where the issue is because he's not trying to get up. He's not making really any effort to get up, even if he couldn't. But he's not trying to get up. He's not pushing himself up. He's just laying on him. And obviously, first on his mind, of course, is to put the puck in the net and make sure it goes in the net. And he hits it again just before it crosses the line. And I think that's the issue the refs had with it is, he's not making the effort to get up. He's still on Rene, impeding him from making any attempt to make a save and puts in the net. And it's really an unfortunate call because you don't see it happen. I don't think I've ever seen that happen like that where they've called it because he's obviously been pushed. I think it's just the fact he makes that second touch while he's still on top of Rene is where the call is actually made.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point, like you said, because I think if he sits there, I mean, obviously your instinct is you see that puck rolling, you don't know if it's going to stop, it's going to, if it's going to hit the post, even though it's a little bit inside, or a defender's going to come and knock it out of the way. So of course your instinct is to swing at it. But I think you're right. If he probably just lays there and it rolls in, it maybe the call would have stood. I mean, I don't know. It's hard because the initial call was goalie interference. I just, like I said, whether you hate or love the Sharks because you're a Ducks fan or whatever, it is what it is. But I hate seeing those types of plays, and then the next goal is the other team scores. It's just kind of frustrating. Especially if you're a Sharks fan. So, but like we said, that one's going to go to a game 5. Tied as well, and it's going to be another fun one to watch. And I encourage people to watch all these games. I mean, they're really fun games. I mean, I know we're bummed the Ducks are gone, but if you want to watch some former Ducks players, I highly encourage the Pittsburgh-Washington series. And the other 3 series, they're all been fun. I've been catching almost all the games, like I said, as best I can. And one other thing too is we still have the Gulls playing. They're in their second round. They're playing the Ontario Reign, the Kings AHL affiliate. They dropped game 1, and they're going on to play game 2 as of the time that we're recording this. In a weird series, I don't know why it's set up this way, Eddie, but they're alternating games between San Diego and Ontario every single game. I'm not really sure why they did that, but I mean, at least they're all in Southern California, so it's not out of state stuff, but. That's what's going on there. That they dropped that first game, unfortunately. Hackett was a net and didn't do as well, but we'll see what happens. Hoping that the Gulls can win and get on to the next round here.
Yeah, and maybe if they go all the way, it impacts a good Ducks coaching situation with Dallas Eakins being the coach of the Gulls right now. But it'd be nice to see them go all the way. I think they have a pretty good team this year. Obviously, Theodore's down there, Montour's down there, Richie, all the Ducks' top prospects. Jakob Larson just joined the team. So, I mean, if you're looking to watch the future of the Ducks right now, then go watch the Gulls because pretty much all the Ducks' top prospects right now are playing on the team. And they're playing a good team in the Ontario Reign, and it's going to be a good series. The AHL scheduling strikes again as they are, like you said, they're playing in every other night in a different arena. I mean, sometimes in the regular season, the AHL, you see them play 3 games back to back to back. So, I mean, it's not surprising, but a little bit unorthodox. But if you get a chance, I mean, I'm not down there, but if for anybody listening who's in the area, if you get a chance, go watch the Gulls play because it's obviously some good hockey.
Yeah, and as far as watching it looks like scorestream.com is a website that the Ducks advertise that shows the games there. So, because, I don't think they're on regular TV around here. I haven't seen anything, but that's one spot you can go to. And I think there's also an AHL main one, like ahllive.com. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's the other one that you can go check and, watch the games that way. And if you're going to the games at home, don't forget they're doing the whiteout. So wear your white Gulls jersey or anything white if you're going to the games. That's what they're going to do for the home games in this series. So the Ducks do painted orange and the Gulls are doing white out as their theme. So that's kind of cool. The fans have been pretty into it. Like I said, I went down there for one game and they're pretty rowdy in San Diego. I have to tell you, it's actually a fun atmosphere. So if you've only gone to the Duck games or some other games and you haven't gone to San Diego, I know it's a little bit of a drive, but you should really check it out. It's fun. The atmosphere is good, and all the people at the Gulls and also Fox Sports San Diego. They do a really good job down there. So it's good times. I'm going to try, and I don't know if I'll make it to one of the games this round, but I'll see how my schedule is. May is a crazy month for me, but I'd like to try and get down there to one of those games. And not to finish on a bad note, Eddie, but if you want to help the community, there's some terrible fires that are going on in Alberta right now, and we donated some money to help out. And you've seen some of the players have done it. David Perron has put it out there on Twitter too, and we put it on Facebook as well and Twitter. But just an unfortunate situation going on at Fort McMurray. A lot of people have lost their homes and have been displaced, and if you can help out in any way. I urge you to go to redcross.ca and donate. It could be $5. I mean, seriously, if you don't, it doesn't have to be hundreds or thousands like some of these other people, but if you can donate anything to help out, the people in Canada, it'd be much appreciated. And we also have our Forever Mighty shirt up for sale still on the website on dnphockey.com. And any of those shirts, the one with the retro or the new colors, if you buy those, the proceeds we'll donate those to help as well up there. So just a little thing that, if people want to get involved, Eddie, because hockey affects, all of us, and we got to take care of people in Canada too, not just people down here. And it's a worldwide thing. So, we want to show our support. I mean, I know you're up there, but you're more on the east side, but just doing what we can.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible thing right now. I mean, the fires are up in Alberta and the region are common every year, but they're a little bit early this year, and it's caught a lot of people off guard, and it's really gotten out of control. And like you said, a lot of people have lost their homes, and the donations and the support has been amazing so far. From people not just in Canada, like you said, obviously from you and from a lot of people across the U.S. The donations coming into the Red Cross have been amazing, and a lot of people are able to get a second chance and living a good life after the fires and losing their home and everything. So it's really nice to see the support coming in.
And with that, I mean, we'll just keep our eye on everything. I mean, there's a lot going on. Hopefully, you can breathe a sigh of relief about Perry and Getzlaf and not worry about them being traded or who's going to be the captain. I mean, like we said, things can change, but really the main issue for us to focus on is going to be the coach. Maybe next week we'll know, maybe not. That's what we're going to have to worry about. And then after that, Eddie, it'll come down to the RFAs, the UFAs, and the draft. And of course, we'll have all of that. And like we said, it's going to be a busy summer. Buckle your seatbelts, and we'll be back for more next week. And as always, let's go Ducks.